As the city continues to grow, how will you ensure it does not strain local infrastructure such as roads, schools, and emergency services?
I'd say most citizens feel like we're already past that point of the strain on roads, particularly. We have not had a very forward-thinking growth plan in the way we've dealt with our street infrastructure and ensuring that our major artillery roads are built to be able to handle the traffic and different connections that need to happen so everything doesn't get forced onto 200 North and Main Street, which is what's currently happening. So that's an issue we're already behind on that we've got to deal with and make it a priority to fix. We've also got to just recognize we are growing, and with that does come a increased need for staffing in your police, fire type services. We've got areas of town right now that are actually outside of the 5-mile radius to get your best insurance rates. Some people are even getting rejected from getting insurance. So we've got to address that and make sure that we get stations built that will actually protect our city's citizens and help them be able to save money on their insurance costs.
How will you incentivize builders to add more affordable housing options?
So the affordable housing issue is obviously a big one, and I don't know if anybody anywhere in the country has actually figured out how to appropriately and adequately address the issue. The state's tried several things to try to help affordability with ADUs, trying to increase the process, the speed that it takes to get developments through so you can meet inventory demands. And a lot of it just is honestly that, like the reality is if any product is undersupplied and people want it, the value for that product is going to go up. So I think it's less about how do you incentivize affordable housing. You just got to incentivize how to get the product on the market so that the demand can be met and then prices naturally come down. And you're starting to see it. You're actually year over year we're about a 10% down in values. That the market is correcting itself based on those free market principles. And so my hope is that continues. But as a city, I think we can do things to help minimize the bureaucracy that adds costs to home building that don't need to be there, that don't benefit anybody. The developer doesn't make any more, it just costs the end user more money. And those are areas I think we can focus on as a city, is figuring out how to do that. But while doing that in a way that we're also figuring out, the more important issue to me is how do we incentivize developers to actually build neighborhoods and communities, not just subdivisions and developments. As a community, I think many of us are frustrated with the type of development that's being built and the long-term effect that some of the way we're developing can have on our community. We lose the sense of connection that Cedar City's always been known for if we're not really careful about the way we develop.
One of Iron County's largest employers, Utah Iron, suspended its operations this year. What will you do to expand job opportunities within the city?
Yeah, so for a long time, Iron County was named Iron County because it was originally settled for the iron mines, and for a lot of years, you'll read the histories of people locally, and it was a boom or bust economy where everything was tied to whether those iron mines were running or not running. And when they were up, things were good. When iron prices were down and they closed, things were really bad in the community. So I think we've done a good job as a community, I'd say since the 80s, early 90s, of trying to diversify our economy. And I'm grateful for the foresight that previous leadership has had to do that. I think there's a little bit more diversity that we could get. One of the ones I've talked about is we've done a good job of recruiting kind of factory type employment, which is great. In no way is that any kind of a bad job and much needed in our economy. But going to your diversity point, I think we could do a little bit better job of figuring out how to not just recruit the companies that make the widgets and sell the widgets and employ our people, and it's wonderful, but if we could also get companies that their ownership lives here, that corporate headquarters are here, then those types of jobs are often a little higher paying, and the way that those companies tend to give back in the community adds a lot of auxiliary benefits from the charitable contributions. The way that they engage in their giving side in a community can have really big impacts. So I would like us to work closely with our economic development arm to come up with ways and strategies that we can recruit owner-operated businesses with their corporate offices being located in Cedar, and incentivize some of that kind of growth to again help diversify the overall economy.
The Pine Valley Water Supply Project is a long-term solution to Iron County's declining aquifer. Do you have a water conservation plan for the city short-term?
So I actually think the city's done a few things that are good that I support. They've created a tiered watering incentives for new development, that developers get a break on the amount of water that they have to bring to the city based on the types of landscaping they put in. So if it's a conservation type landscaping, then it saves them from having to bring in as much water. So that's a good program. I think I'm more of an incentive based than I am a dictated based model in my overall philosophy. So the tiered watering rates that they've implemented, I think, is also good. If you want to have a grass backyard and you want to pay for it, then that's your choice and you just pay more. One of the things I've been doing some research on, I actually traveled up to northern Utah to see an example of it, but there's a company in Idaho that has developed a breed of grass that uses between 40 and 50% less water than your traditional grass. That's a really cool development because it actually qualifies for your zero-scape qualifications, but then we don't have to go all hardscaped, because one of the drawbacks to conservation, you've probably read articles from Arizona, Nevada, that when everything goes to rock and hardscape, there's a softness and a heat issue that is actually created by not having trees and grass as part of what we do. I also want, so getting that grass is something that we can get in our market, and I'd love to find a local person that if we can get the rights to be able to grow it and create a sod farm here that we can use, still get grass and be conservation wise. The other one is your areas of town, anytime there's a tree creates shade that actually helps all of the other landscape use less water. So I think we should incentivize more trees as a great way as well. Right now our ordinance, if a developer wanted to do a tree-lined street, like you see in old parts of town, it's actually illegal in our ordinance. So that's a really simple one that I think is valuable, is let's get more trees planted, and again find ways to incentivize trees to happen as part of our landscaping.
Cedar City is a gateway to national parks and monuments. How will you use tourism to benefit the people who reside here?
I love that question because when you actually look at the way a city in Utah gets the majority of its revenue, it's sales tax. So as a city, if we have things that we want to do, we need to deal with our infrastructure like we talked about earlier. We have two ways to do that. We either increase taxes on our local citizens that they all pay for, or we figure out how to get more things bought in Cedar City that then give us a larger amount of money to be able to deal with the issues that we face. So tourism is one of the best ways to do that, because there are people that will come, spend money, and leave. So they then don't have the impact on our infrastructure and all the other parts that that cost the city money, but we get the benefit of them spending their money here and then leaving. So tourism is a big deal. I believe continuing to help our downtown to develop and stay a quaint, unique downtown. I think there's still more we can do to increase its viability and attractiveness for people to come and want to stay there. And then I've talked with our Parks and Recs department. I think there's some things I want to talk about of how we can use the movement that exists in the country in youth sports and some of those kind of activities that we can capitalize in maybe a greater extent than we're currently capitalizing in, to bring events into the community that help us on that side.
Specifically with the mayor's office, how will the community be able to voice their stances and feedback on town policies?
Yeah, that's a great one. I've talked about this one quite a bit with people. Is the mayor, your city council, they're public servants. They shouldn't be viewed as politicians, and that's the attitude we should take towards it. So we should value and want to have input and feedback from our citizens, and I think we need to do a better job of providing opportunities for them to even understand what's going on. You know, I've heard many will just kind of throw it back on the citizen and say, well, nobody ever shows up to city council meeting. It's true, and I think that there is an element of that citizens that care should come and have their voices expressed there, but it's also a challenging setting. It's not easy. You know, how does a mom bring her kids and sit through a 3-hour meeting? You know, so I think we've got to do a better job of finding ways that the citizens can feel like they can understand issues, get into the meat of what issues are about, and express their opinions about them. Two of the ideas that I've had along that train of thought is there a way for us to do some kind of a podcast where we bring an agenda item that's maybe coming to the work meeting on city council. After that work meeting, we have a podcast that talks about those issues, and we bring both sides of that issue in and have a little bit of a discussion about it, that people can actually listen and try to understand both sides of an issue prior to the meeting that the council then votes on the issue, right? So then they can show up if something that they really are passionate about and want to come express their opinions before city council votes. Another one is I want to hold, you know, maybe, I don't know how often, quarterly at least, continue to do cottage meetings or town halls where I just show up and at a time and allow people to come and talk and share what they think and feel, so that I have a pulse of what the issues are and how people are feeling out there, because I should be representing them, right? It's not about me or what I want. It should be about what is important to the people.
Out of all the topics discussed today and any left out, what would you say is your top priority as a potential mayor?
I would say that I genuinely love our city, and I'm doing this because I just want to serve. So I want the citizens to feel comfortable being able to approach me with issues and concerns. I don't have all the answers, but I believe if we will talk respectfully and kindly with each other, together we can figure out the answers to the things that our city faces.